guys, it's Jane. Welcome back to Mystery Monday. Last week I started my top 10 favourite crime authors. I did the first 5. I'll link that video below. This is the second part of that video today. 5 more crime author recommendations. My goal is that within this 10, I'm covering pretty much a good range of the crime spectrum. So hopefully there's something for everybody. But let's get into it. My first author I'm going to talk about today is an Australian author, in fact, a local Melbourne author. His name is Shane Maloney, and he's the author of the Murray Whelan books. Murray falls pretty squarely into the citizen sleuth department. And he's pretty unusual in that Murray's profession is that he is a politician. He starts the series as a political staffer, so he works in the office of a local member of parliament. As the series progresses, Murray sort of stumbles his way up the political ladder, and in the later books in the series, he is himself a member of parliament. The books are all set in the late 80s and 90s, which is a period of time in Victoria where the ALP, the Australian Labor Party, was in power. Murray is a member of this political party. On its face, it sounds like a bit of a strange marriage, you know, a politician who is also a kind of amateur sleuth. But Murray is not a kind of silken-tongued, suit-wearing, slick politician. Neither is he sort of a backrooms, number-crunching ideologue. He's a fixer. He's the kind of guy who gets his hands dirty, and he's the kind of guy you call on when you've got a problem and you need it to get fixed. And this sees him getting in and out of any number of scrapes. These books are not especially hard-boiled, although they do have quite a gritty sense of place. He's quite a sympathetic character and there's elements of the sort of bumbling detective sort of idea in the Murray Whelan stories, because quite often he does the wrong thing. A number of times he himself ends up as the subject of investigation. The first book in the Murray Whelan series is called Stiff. The story is jump-started when a corpse of a Turkish immigrant is found in a meatpacking plant. The second author I'm going to talk about today is also an Australian author, Kerry Greenwood. Now, Kerry Greenwood's actually quite a prolific author, and she's written in a number of genres, but her crime books are the best known. She has 2 main mystery protagonists, and both of these series are quite solidly down the cosy end of the spectrum, particularly the Corinna Chapman books, because the Corinna Chapman books have a protagonist who was a baker, which is a classic cozy sort of trope, and they also, every book ends with a recipe, which is another classic cozy trope. The Corinna Chapman books are contemporary set. Corinna lives and works in the central business district of Melbourne. She has a bakery in the basement and an apartment higher up in a 1920s apartment block. The other inhabitants of this block are characters in the books, and they include a white witch and a retired Latin scholar and a number of society matrons and some aspiring actresses, and yeah, it's a really varied collection of colourful characters. The first of the Corinna Chapman books is called Earthly Delights. But actually better known than the Corinna Chapman books are Kerry Greenwood's Phryne Fisher books. The Phryne Fisher series is an historically set mystery series. Phryne was born in 1900, and the books are set starting from the late 1920s. Phryne is a kind of rich, single, headstrong, beautiful flapper. She didn't grow up wealthy, but during the First World War, there were a number of convenient deaths, and her father came into a peerage and quite a large inheritance, and now Phryne is an independently wealthy chick who runs around doing what she pleases, and it turns out what she pleases is solving mysteries. The first one of these is called Cocaine Blues. The third author that I'm going to talk about today is Elmore Leonard. Now, Elmore Leonard is quite different from all of the other people that I've spoken about before. His books are almost all standalones rather than series, and he doesn't write standard style whodunits, but most of his books, the plots centre around crimes. He's as likely to write a protagonist who is a criminal as an investigator, and the draw of Elmore Leonard's books is the prose and the dialogue in particular. He has a really strong ear for dialogue. Lots of Elmore Leonard's stories have actually been adapted into films or TV, most of them unsuccessfully, in my opinion, but there's one or two good ones. The current TV series Justified, the character Whelan Givens in that is actually an Elmore Leonard creation. He comes out of one of Elmore Leonard's stories. If you haven't seen that, Whelan Givens is a marshal in Kentucky, and if you've seen the show, the Whelan Givens character in that is a kind of classic sort of Elmore Leonard style character. So if you like the show, that will give you an idea of whether or not you're interested in maybe picking up one of the books. The book of his that I would recommend as a starting place, because it's not a series, you can almost start anywhere, but one of the really good ones that I would suggest is Out of Sight. And Out of Sight has two main characters, one of whom is a criminal and one of whom is law enforcement. And so again, that gives you both sides of the Elmore Leonard sort of palette. Okay, two more authors to go, and both of these are actually recent discoveries of mine. Number 4 for today is Colin Cotterill, and I actually first came across his books last year. Colin Cotterill is a British-born author who actually holds joint British and Australian citizenship, but he has lived almost all of his adult life in Southeast Asia, and almost all of his books are set in Southeast Asia. His most famous series is the Dr. Siri mysteries. Dr. Siri is a coroner, and the first one of these is called The Coroner's Lunch. These are special in that they are set in mid to late 1970s Laos. In 1975, Laos was handed over from the French colonial authorities to a communist regime, and the People's Democratic Republic of Laos was formed. The first story is set pretty much directly after the handover. Almost all of the educated classes of Laos have left. Dr. Siri is an old man. He's sort of 70-ish, and he's a Parisian-trained doctor. He has no background in forensic medicine, but he's like the last person left. And so he is appointed as the coroner for the entire country. And in their governmental system, when there is a suspicious death, it's the coroner's job to decide whether or not an investigation is needed, and if he thinks there is, then it's basically his job to investigate. So even though he's got no background in law enforcement or anything like that, it's now his job as, you know, a 70-year-old guy to investigate murders and other suspicious deaths for the entire country of Laos. The setting in these is really particular and very interesting. You get a lot of stuff about the inner workings of the communist regime, the background to the handover, life in Southeast Asia generally. The other thing that sets these mysteries apart is that there is a layer of supernatural elements that are part of the stories. Dr. Siri himself is a man of science. He was trained in the West. However, it turns out in the world of the story, that he has a particular affinity with the spirit world, and that as a coroner comes in handy if you can communicate with the dead. So there's quite a lot of that stuff integrated into the mysteries as well. Colin Cotterill has recently started a second mystery series. These ones are set in the present and not in Laos but in Thailand. The central character in these is a young female crime reporter named Jimm Jiree. And the first of these books is called Killed at the Whim of a Hat. The final author I'm going to talk about today is a brand new favourite, somebody I've actually spoken about a number of times in my videos previously. It's Attica Locke. And Attica Locke is a young African-American author. Currently she's only published 2 books, but they are both crackers. She's got a new book coming out later this year, and I'm really looking forward to it. The thing that excites me about the 2 books that she's published so far is that they are a really strong marriage between a well-plotted mystery and a more literary general fiction novel. Blackwater Rising, which was the first one, follows a young lawyer in the 80s, an African-American man who is just scraping by, and he is, as an innocent bystander, drawn into a murder, and his life goes south. So there's the mystery that we're working through with that one, but his character is an amazingly interestingly drawn guy. He's suffering something like post-traumatic stress disorder from when he was a young man and he was involved in the civil rights movement. That side of it, his personal history and all the stuff about things that went on in the movement and the government response to the movement, is really a fascinating, interesting book in its own right. And the marriage between those 2 halves was really well done. Her second book, The Cutting Season, manages to carry off the same trick. It's a mystery, another innocent bystander story. This one, it's a female central character, Karen, who is the manager of a historical reenactment sugarcane plantation. There's a whole bunch of stuff about slavery in this book, but there's also this really tightly plotted mystery. There's one of the current day cane workers is found dead on the property, and Karen is caught up in investigating the murder. I am so looking forward to reading more from her. These first 2 are just absolute corkers. So that's it. That's my 5 authors for today, my overall 10 great crime authors. I hope you found somebody that you're interested to have a look at. I hope you're all well, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!